you're fired. You know how bad I am at remembering to record anything. We did the entire group coaching, the last one, and didn't record it, so I shouldn't be allowed out on my own. And then at the end of about 10-15 minutes, I'm going to ask Lucie to open up her video and her speaker, and we're going to hear from Lucie how it went for her to go from, you know, like just feeling crap to feeling confident and sexy, which I just love that whole thing so much. And we can ask her questions about the stuff that, you know, how she got there in 6 weeks when you've been dieting for, you know, not 600 years, Lucie, because you're not old enough, but you know what I mean, a very long time. You can work out the maths on that and let me know. So one of the reasons that I care so much about this, one of the reasons I care so much about this is because I have a lot of daughters. I don't know if you guys know, but I have 5 children. So I have 3 that I gave birth to, and I have 2 stepkids from my last relationship who I'm kind of kept, and they are, of which that basically means I have 3 daughters, and every single daughter is a different shape and size, right? You guys know this. So I have one who's, she pretends she's taller than me. She's not really, but she's a bit taller, and she's deeply curvy, and oh my God, she's so beautiful, and she's half Indian, so you know all the curvy bits. And I'm like, her bum comes from the Indian part and the boobs come from the Swedish part. So, you know, and literally has spent her whole life going, how do I get thinner? And then I've got the next one down who has the body of an athlete. I mean, just beautiful straight lines and, you know, like almost, but curvy and things, but just like, I don't know how to say, lean, long limbed, and just is like really chill in her body because this is her body. And then the youngest one is a kind of a drama singer type. So her hair is always like this, and it's lavender, and it's all this stuff. And my Indian heart shrivels, and I want them all to be very traditional. So yeah, that doesn't work. And she is just, you know, she's very busty. And she's not in any way overweight, but because those of you with big boobs, which is not a problem I've ever had, know that you end up just not looking, you never look skinny with boobs, which I'm like, and why would you want to look skinny? But I've just had the last 2 years, it's just been trying to keep my daughters from literally throwing themselves off the bloody deep end because they're too fat, they're too thin, their boobs are too big, their boobs aren't big enough, their bum's too big, the bums are not big enough. I mean, just for fuck's sake, it's just appalling. So any of you who feel like this, yeah, because with boobs, like, so people who don't have boobs don't think boobs are a nightmare. I would just like to point this out. And people that have curly hair think straight hair is good, and people with straight hair think, and so society just puts us through in a particular place. Yeah, it's because we're obsessed with size. And I look at my beautiful babies, and I have brought them up from little understanding that fat is fertility. I've kind of like drummed this into their heads because I've always been worried about the rate of infertility in young girls now. And I've been like, nah, eat fat. So my kids are conscious and have always eaten fat, but they still get, and they look at themselves and they go, I was so thin then. And now look at me. And I'm thinking, oh, so I want to talk about this obsession we have. And that's the right word, Marcel, this obsession with size, this obsession with shape, and this absolute self-hatred that comes about because we're not supposed to be the shape that we are. And I mean, it's a prison. It's literally a prison that I can see for all of us. So I want to talk about that. And then I want to talk about how to break out of that prison, because Lucie is our escaped convict, who is never going back, we hope, because okay, so what are we talking about? We're talking about the fact that the situation is that when you are not the size you want to be, or even if you are the size you want to be, but you don't like that size. I mean, you know, that thing where you're a good size. Somebody was saying earlier today about her sister that she's beautiful, but in her brain, she thinks she's fat. Now, when you get to that stage, society has basic rules that you are meant to follow to get to a size that is thinner than that. Anybody want to share some of those rules with me? What you're meant to do? You're meant to eat. I just want to check you're all awake. Low cal, yep. And yes, you're meant to exercise way too much. What are the other rules you're meant to follow? You're meant to not eat. Yep, no carbs. Eat fewer calories. Eat no fat. No alcohol. Now that's really tragic. No sugar, no. I love that. No sugar, no dairy, no wheat, no fun. Marcel, yeah, black woman, big bums under thighs, yes. Yes, yes, no takeaway. And why are you leaving the house? And that thing that when you feel bad and you're eating in public and you think you're fat and people look at you, you think they're looking at me because I'm fat and I'm eating, right? I had a child who refused to eat in public for like a year because she was too fat to eat in public. I'm like, what the fuck? Yes, you're meant to eat fish. Yeah. So I think we can all agree, right, that actually this is a prison. This is an emotional prison which we go into the minute we become, basically from puberty, because puberty is when your body lays down. Yeah, exactly, Sarah. You do get abused by people, and you're beautiful. So, you know, God. And in fact, I'm sure all of you are beautiful, because I look at my clients and I'm like, wow, we have some of the best looking people in the world as our clients. But with people, and you should, honestly, Gabby, you should see Sarah. I mean, she's hot as hell. When you are in a place where somebody says, we don't like how you look, we don't like what you're saying, we don't like what you're, you know, you shouldn't be this size, like you and who's fucking army. So then that puts you, with your own permission, into an emotional prison of wanting. You're never thin enough. You have always eaten too much. You've not done well enough. You've just not been good enough. Tell me some of those emotions that you women have felt while you've been going through this process, because it makes you feel like shit, because you're always failing, because success is defined by you losing weight on a scale. And nothing else about you matters. So someone is telling you, yes, how you can eat, but no one is telling you how to live, because you aren't allowed to live if you're fat or you're overweight, or, you know, by any amount of time. Yeah, I mean, look at the stuff that's been written here. Yes. And yes, failure. It's the failure. It's the guilt. It's the shame. It's absolutely so annoying. And what happens is that when you live like this, this becomes the definition of who you are. Now, what's very, very interesting is that, why does this matter, right? Actually, if you're all sitting in your little prison feeling like shit, why does this matter? I want to give you a wider context around this. That's what I was going to say. Exactly what Sarah said. Because the majority of my clients tend to be over 40, and they are very driven, very ambitious, and actually either very successful on their way to being spectacularly successful. And you can speak to them, and there is a place here of the person that they are, and this isn't just about diet, this is about feeling less than constantly. Exactly. I'm always doing the right things and I'm not succeeding. So you've got the person, the doing part is, oh, I can do it this way. Here's the doing person, and here's the being person, right? So the doing person is the one that's thinking, achieving, pushing, succeeding. And then the being person is the person that, if you've ever worked with me, like one-on-one or in a group, you'll know I use this languaging a lot, because the being person is the person that's feeling. And when you feel wrong, and you feel you don't deserve love, and you don't feel right, and you can never get it right because you're doing all the wrong things and you still fail, you then ultimately decide, like when Gabby says, I'm doing all the right things and I'm still not succeeding, you ultimately decide you are the failure. Is that right? How many of you have thought, yes, because you internalized this failure and you decide it's something about you, which is really, really shitty. And what I want to talk to you about, yes, is the fact that in lockdown and in the way we live in this day and age, what's really interesting is that women, and the power that women hold, is so important in this day and age. You are so important in this day and age, because we are earning more money than we've ever earned before. We have more power than we've ever had before. We have more choice than we've ever had before. I have one of my clients who was saying to me, one of my coaching clients, she said, my husband said he wants to make enough money to buy our daughter, her own house. And she was like, that's just bullshit. I want to bring my daughter up to earn her money to buy her damn house. And she will. And I was like, we've moved so far from just get married and smile. Hi, Belinda. Just get there and do what you're doing at work, but hate yourself personally. And I would say this was a form of misogyny, but in fact, it's something that it's about us because of us. And we have chosen this, not willingly. Nobody willingly chooses to wake up and feel like shit on a daily basis and feel like failure. But it is ultimately us sitting in the prison. And the prison, the bars of the prison are anger, guilt, shame, failure. Anger, guilt, shame, failure. And I think that the reason I wanted to have this conversation is, and I want you to talk to Lucie, who is still alive and is coming on in like 35 seconds, is because it is so incredibly important for you to understand that even if you have dieted, thank you, Lucie, okay, is everybody listening? Even if you have dieted your whole life, you do not have to hate how you look and how you feel for the next part of your life. If you're 25, 35, 40, 45, my mother's 80 bloody 6. Right? So just think how much more of your life all of you have left to live, even if you just hit 90, 80. How many more years does that leave you with? 10, 20, 30, 40? That's a lot of bloody time to hate yourself. It's a lot of time to hate how you live. It's a lot of time to hate everything about you. So I want you to understand that you can come out of this extremely quickly. Emotionally, 6 weeks is just nothing compared to a lifetime of hating yourself. Are you guys with me still? Do you want to know how Lucie feels today compared to how she used to feel? I'm trying to do a da-da-da-da. It's really quite hard on Zoom. Other than nervous. I love that. Sweetie, you're perfect. You have nothing. I thought we just done all this. You're perfect, remember? Okay, Lucie, do you want to come click all your stuff on? I've never done this before. It's really interesting.
No, me neither.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you so much for giving up your time and looking way more made up than I am. And so look at all the highs.
It's my one chance to actually put a face on.
That's nice. Thank you so much. I appreciate the time. The thing that Lucie is doing, Lucie, you're getting highs from everyone. You're doing something that's so important because it's actually really scary to talk about the stuff you're going to talk about. I'm really proud of you. I'm deeply, deeply grateful because it's just not easy, right? You know it's not easy. We all know it's not easy. And so if we screw up, it'll be my fault. And if we succeed, it's your fault. I've just worked out that when I went off and changed my clothes, I put my t-shirt on inside out. That's deeply attractive.
I mean, it's very stylish right now.
I meant this. I totally meant it.
And your hair hides the label, so no one would know.
Here we go. Everything. Okay, Lucie, let me just ask you a few questions. And then, guys, you guys can ask Lucie some questions as well, right?
Yep.
Tell me how you felt, because I know we've gone through some of the emotions. How did you feel before you actually made the decision to do something about it with us? Before you started working with me, how did you feel?
So before I started working with you, I'd say I had two main emotions that sort of drove my entire life. The first was not feeling good enough in any way, shape or form. And that led to a total lack of worth. I was unworthy. I was unworthy at work. I was unworthy with my family, with my friends. Those two emotions drove everything. Absolutely everything.
That's really quite hard. I mean, and ladies, any of you, when you want to, like, if you are feeling the same thing that Lucie was, please feel free to kind of just so that we're sharing the conversation. But I mean, if you go through life, how old are you? Because you're quite young.
I'm 34.
Yeah. So you're 34. You go through life thinking, I'm not worthy of anything. Mm-hmm. And how does that impact? I mean, it must impact your relationships, for example.
Oh yeah, hugely. For the two major relationships I've had, total, oh my God, I've got to do everything that he wants because he's the only person who's ever going to like me. He's the only person who's ever going to find me attractive. He's the only person who's going to give me the time of day. So yeah. I have to be whatever he asks of me, whatever he wants of me, because the alternative is total abandonment and proof positive that I'm not worthy.
Oh.
Total proof positive. This is all very historical, ladies.
And then and that's good. So we're allowed to just wallow in the shittiness of it because we've passed it. And then, of course, what you do is you attract shitheads, because the shitheads are the people that want to walk all over you. So that's who you attract, because that's where your energy is I'm not worthy, and therefore you can come and make me feel like shit, because that's what I'm attracting.
Yeah, you can come and do whatever you want, say whatever you want about my education, my career, my looks, my mannerisms, tone of voice. Say anything you want, because
I just have to be grateful you're here.
Yeah.
Because people pleasing is the primary objective.
Because you're here, and at least you're talking to me. Like, oh, you're giving me the time of day. Thank you.
I'm so grateful. So Daisy says, what made you take the decision? Okay, wait, before we get to Daisy's question, what had you tried before?
Oh,
because this is the thing.
Everything.
Yeah.
Everything. So I went to my first Slimming World meeting when I was 14.
Did you have to go with your mother?
I happened to be going with my mother, but it was something that I decided I wanted to go to.
Yeah, she didn't push you into it.
No.
No, you have a good relationship with your mother.
She didn't, my GP didn't, nobody else did.
But you had that thing I had, which is that you grew tall very quickly. So you were the tallest person around all the time, because that's what I was as well. I was the tallest person. So I felt bigger than everybody because I was so tall.
Yeah. There's, in my parents' house, there's like the year photo for my year 11 group. And when the photo was taken, I took my shoes off, because if I'd kept my shoes on, I'd have been the only girl in the back row. So I took them off.
I used to bend my knee.
Shrink.
Oh, sweetie. So then when, oh my gosh, Emma said her mother was saying Slimming World. So when you've now tried, so you've tried Slimming World, what else have you tried?
I've done Slimming World. I've done things like the fat binding pills. So like Adios and all these things that claim to bind fat and help rid your body of it. I did Slim Fast and shakes. I did, at one stage I was doing close to 2.5 hours a day in the gym minimum. No fat, no carbs. Sorry? You
were dancing as well, if I remember.
Yeah, so the dancing I did for fun.
No, but I get that. But you were moving shitloads.
Oh, yeah, yeah. At the same time as doing my GCSEs, I was in the studio 4 nights a week. And then I was assisting in the studio for 6 hours on a Saturday, as well as obligatory gym and sports at school.
So you were burning off whatever it was that you were, that anything excess would have been.
I was constantly on the move.
But I remember that.
Playing rugby as well.
Yeah.
So it was like constant physical fitness.
So you've tried the pills, you've tried wandering and moving as a huge amount of exercise, you've tried Slimming World, what else?
Yeah. We did the shakes. I tried the cabbage diet. Turns out I do not like cabbage soup.
I love it.
V8 juice is the devil. I tried calorie counting. I tried having, 50% of my plate as negative calorie food.
I don't even want to know what that is. So what got you to the place of thinking, did you just think, oh, I can't do this anymore? Or what was it? What got you to the place where when we first met, there was, I don't know what the webinar was on, emotional eating or on something.
Something like that.
Boosting metabolism, emotion. It was something. What made you think I'll go on this? Because you've now tried everything.
I was just miserable. I was totally miserable. We'd come into lockdown, and I don't work well from home at all. I hate having work in my private life, in my home space. I hate it. And I don't own any scales, so I was logging into my virtual Slimming World groups, and hasn't so-and-so done well, she's lost this much, and hasn't so-and-so done well, she's done this much, and hasn't so-and-so done well, she's done this. It's like, hasn't Lucie done well, she's turned up.
Oh,
I didn't have scales, so I couldn't plot if I was losing weight. And I just sat there and I was like, I'm spending all of this money every week for nothing. I don't get anything out of it. I don't get any joy. Even when I lose weight, it's not my victory.
No, it's theirs, because they were.
Yep, the program did it for me.
Sarah just said, oh my God, Lucie, you are me. I don't think Sarah's the only one. I think a lot of people feel like that.
And I'd already made the decision to abandon Slimming World.
That sounds like a really great idea.
Yeah.
Everything I've heard about it.
Lockdown helped, because if you're not actually seeing the people, then it was so easy I'd log into Zoom and I'd have no camera, no sound, and I'd be watching a film. And then at sort of 5 minutes before the end, or if I heard my name, I'd turn the sound on, I'd answer, then I turned it off and carried on watching my film. I was like, this is a total waste.
So it just made you feel like shit.
Yeah. And I'd plateaued. No matter what I did, if I followed the plan to the letter, I stayed the same weight. If I abandoned the plan, I stayed the same weight. I was doing insanity workouts every morning, I stayed the same weight. Nothing changed it.
Oh, my heart's breaking. It's awful.
Yeah, and it was beige. Everything was beige, it was white bread and margarine. The blandest things you can think of.
Because from what I'm hearing from you is that everything that you were doing was about weighing yourself and the calories, and it was all kind of food, that shit they talk about, food in and food out, calories in and calories out, or whatever. Food in, food out. I didn't quite mean that. Calories in, calories out. And then there's the place where no one is helping you deal with the emotional side of this.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, and it has apparently nothing to do with weight loss. So you're not meant to look at it or be part of it.
No, there's no recognition that emotion and diet
are linked.
By extension, emotion and weight are linked.
Okay, so we then started to. We had a 6-week course. I just want you all to understand, guys, that we did not work, Lucie and I, for 5 years or 20 years. We love you, babe. You're welcome to stay around forever. But actually, it was 6 weeks. So what we're talking about is 6 hours, 1 hour a week, right? So I want you to understand this because let's understand a few baseline things. Number one, I gave Lucie the information and the support and a non-judgmental place. What I didn't do was do any of the work. Lucie did all the work here, right? So that's issue number one that we should totally understand, much like you're doing all the work here, and I love you for it because you're being so open and I'm really, really grateful. But it was also 1 hour a week, and then you went away and did, and how many years did you do Slimming World for?
For 20 years, from my first meeting to my last, 20 years.
Okay, we'll just get past that one. Tell me, okay, so with the work that we did, tell me what you found easy or what you found unusual, or what was it that kind of blew your mind?
I think the thing that blew my mind most, and it's a very semantic point, is that it wasn't work. This took no effort, very minimal thinking, no sort of overly stressing or overly planning or sort of hyper analyzing what I was buying, what I was going to cook. It wasn't hard. So you weren't in the prison? No. Because what we did was, sorry, I should also say that we have this 5-step system, right? So it's diet, relationships, mindset, habits, and a plan with purpose. So that's what you went through, Lucie went through in terms of actually that was what the system was that we followed. So what did you do when you didn't have a prison anymore? Was that unusual in the beginning? It was, the first week was probably the biggest change. Yeah. So our first meeting was, I think, on the Monday. I'd totally eaten down my fridge and freezer. They were empty. I think the only thing that was in my fridge was a jar of easy chili.
Love it.
It's literally the only thing in my fridge. And I hopped on the bus and went down to Lidl, and I could pick up anything. I could pick up anything. If I wanted to pick up the oven pizza and the ice cream and the chocolate and the crisps, I could.
Yeah.
But because they weren't a rebellion, because they weren't what I would call because it wasn't a, well, fuck this, I'm going to eat it anyway moment, the choices were naturally healthier.
So you're saying that because you didn't have to push back and you didn't have to fight against something, you didn't, because you never, so because I never said don't eat crisps, don't eat this stuff. You just chose not to eat them.
Yeah.
That's
because
really interesting.
There was no, for anyone who's ever done like Slimming World or Weight Watchers, it's the first time I went shopping and I didn't have to think how many points or how many sins is that. It's like, oh, is that a healthy extra, or does that count as a point, or does that count as a free food? Like, I didn't have to think about my food. I didn't have to think about the individual items.
Yeah, because you had a strategy based on fat, fruit, fiber, and that's what you followed.
Yeah. And I did this shop, and I could think about, I want satay chicken. Okay, so I'll pick up sesame oil and garlic, and I took time to find a nice peanut butter that was purely peanuts and no oil or no added oil. I could just think about food.
And you like
think about meals. I love to cook. I love eating. I love having people over to eat. You know, in our family, the way you show love is food.
You're Indian, clearly.
Our fridge and freezers are never empty. You could turn up at my mum's house at 2 a.m. and there would be enough for a meal.
So Sarah's saying that she said it's for her, it's always been about good food and bad food. And so that got taken away. There was no good food and bad food.
No,
well, there's good food, but there's no bad food.
There was food.
Yeah.
And this idea of, oh, this is good for me, this is bad for me, kind of went out the window. And my only question was, is this feeding me? And I don't just mean, is this fueling to sustain my body? It was much more, is this feeding my soul? Is this going to make me feel warm and fuzzy? And is this going to give me that food hug?
When was the last time you thought like that?
I've never thought like that.
I love it. Oh my God, I'm so happy.
Before this program, before that 6 weeks, I'd never thought like that. It was either a rebellion, it was that, well, screw it, I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
Or it was a punishment.
This is the thing though, isn't it? Because it's punishing yourself. There's nobody else to punish. It's all about who you're punishing. So the transformation, the thing that really struck me, which is why I wanted you to come on this call, was that when we had that conversation and you said, I was wearing these clothes and I felt all, you know, va-va-voom, and you cracked me up because you were so delighted at the concept that you felt confident and sexy, because I can't remember how long, you know, can you talk a little bit about that?
So, yeah, so first and foremost, this was not, for me,
it was bouncing in my chair,
weight loss thing. My clothes still fit. They fit exactly the same way they fit before. But I had, the only way to describe it is I had swag. I had swag. Like, I could look at every, and I do look at every inch of my body, which is far from, you know, Insta, Vogue, perfect. But she feels amazing. She feels so sassy. She just feels alive, and like the love and comfort that I get and give to my body now is just, it's through the roof.
That's just
it's
insane.
Absolutely through the roof. I actually wrote down a couple of notes because obviously Geeta told me a little bit about what it is. And I think the big thing is that I no longer, the thing I wrote down was that I don't look for perfection in my body. I feel for perfection in my body. So if I get up in the morning and my body is awake and all my injuries that I carry don't hurt, and I can get up and I can go to the kitchen unassisted, I can go to the bathroom unassisted, both things I've in the past had taken away from me, then my body is perfect. If my body gets up in the morning, doesn't hurt, and does everything it needs to do, then my body is already beach body ready. My body is ready for anything. It's ready for the black tie, it's ready for the cocktail dress, it's ready for my sassy little Daisy Duke shorts. It's ready for everything.
But I mean, the thing I like about that is that you literally found an open door, pushed on it, and walked out of a prison. Because sitting there, we know, and I just want you to think that, I want the messages. I want you to understand that when you're sitting around and weight loss is your only goal, then the only thing that is successful is whether or not you've lost weight. You've reduced your whole bloody life to this one activity, and you are amazing women. You're strong, you're powerful, you're confident, you've got fantastic bloody jobs, and there's some of you earning properly 6 figures a year, 7 figures a year, and it all comes down to, I hate how I look.
Yep. And
I hate how I look.
Everything is dictated by food. Everything. And I go, particularly if you do one of these groups, if you do Slimming World or Weight Watchers, and they are the two biggest culprits for it, well, I've kind of, I've been more or less on plan this week. Can I really afford to go out for my friend's birthday dinner? Now, financially, yes, of course you can afford it. You've got the money, it's doing nothing. But do I have the points left? Do I have the sins left? Oh, well, I'll go and I'll get back on track next week. And then the guilt you carry because you go to group, and if you've gained, well, yes, I know where that came from. It's because I dared to indulge. I dared to celebrate.
Have a good time. You had a good time. You should
Even worse, though, if you lost, if you still managed to lose weight that week, either your response will be, that's pure fluke, or it will be, that'll come back to bite me on the arse next week.
Oh my God, I hate it. So how many, do you ladies want to ask Lucie questions? Because if you do have questions, because many of you started in the same place that Lucie started from, although to be fair, I feel like you covered so much there that I'm not sure. What I wanted to know
something
is
here from Gabby.
Where she
says, when I wake up, I feel great, but as soon as I look in the mirror, I feel I look fat and my mood is ruined. I had the same thing. I actually prepared for this. This is the mirror. This is the only mirror I had for 4, maybe 5 years.
In your house?
Tiny. It's tiny, ladies. This is it compared to my iPhone 7.
So if you don't have the mirror, you can't look at yourself?
I did. And the only reason I had it is because my hair is naturally very curly. So I straighten my hair every time I wash it, and I need a mirror to do that. That's the only time I had a mirror. So I know exactly where Gabby is coming from. I had the same thing. My mirror is getting bigger.
Yeah, because
and what I've started to do is, there are always parts of your body that you're not going to like, because society says it's too big, it's too small, it's not the right shape, it's in the wrong place. If your tits aren't under your chin and you can't, scratch your ear with your nipple, then your tits are bad. If you can't balance a pint on your butt, then it's not, J-Lo, Kim Kardashian big enough. All these things. There will be parts of your body you may not love, but you at least don't hate them. And I started there. I have always had gorgeous legs. I kept my dancer's leg. Even when I broke my leg and dislocated my ankle, I kept my dancer's legs. I focused on that for a long time. I'd just sit there and look at
Yeah, you would just look at the good parts of you and ignore the other parts, right?
I would lie on the floor with my legs against the wall and just stare at my legs. And then I could do the same with my hands and my arms. And eventually, like, the mirror has got full-bodied.
I love that. That's so good.
It gets there.
Lucie, one thing, Marissa's just come on. Marissa, what we're doing is Lucie was talking about, Lucie had been through dieting for what did we say, Lucie? I'm a lawyer.
About 20 years.
20 odd years. And we were saying that we addressed the emotional elements of how Lucie was eating to get her to feel freer. And so Lucie's talking about how in 6 weeks she transformed from, I hate my life, I don't have a mirror, I don't look at myself, I only look at my legs, I only look at my hands, to loving her body and loving everything about herself, really. So I'm just gobsmacked. Okay, so question, do you ever find you slip back into old habits if you've had a tough day or you're tired?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm like...
I had last week off work, went back to work this week, and on Tuesday had an individual call our service. I work for the Financial Ombudsman. You can imagine how fun that is. And I had a guy call us, very unhappy with our findings on his case. And for 50 minutes straight, he shouted at me. He was threatening the organisation with legal action, and he was telling me in detail about the barristers he'd spoken to, which, side note, is hysterical. I am legally qualified. He was telling me about the press coverage, and just 15 minutes non-stop tearing me and the organisation I work for apart. How
did you feel by the end of that?
We were. Drained. I felt I was beyond fumes.
So what did you do?
I cracked open a bottle of wine. I did. I called my mum.
That was your whole big rebellion?
Yep. I phoned my mum and debriefed to her, because it's what mums are great for. And actually it's what my dad's really great for as well. Just like a really methodical debrief.
Yeah.
I think I cooked like a chicken Caesar salad.
So I think, Gabby, the answer is that she didn't, actually. You're making me laugh, because I was going to say you had that. Where's the bad day? So what you're saying is you went under extreme pressure. You had somebody abusing you, and you had a people-pleasing personality. And yet, because you've transformed so far, your worst thing you did was cook yourself a chicken Caesar salad and had some wine.
Pretty much.
Well, I can live with that. What do you think, ladies? Do we think that's really shitty and terrible, or do we think we can bloody live with that, frankly?
I think for anyone who's been on a Slimming World or a Weight Watchers, they'll know how that feels like an old habit.
And let's be clear, because in our system, what we tell you to do is we tell you to succeed 80% of the time. Mm-hmm. I am the one person that will never tell you have to succeed 100%, because fuck that. Actually, forgive me, but fuck that. Nobody should ever be telling us, with the amount of pressure we live under our whole lives, to just succeed all the time. So, but I'm so proud of you. I didn't even know that. I love that. You didn't even go and eat 12 donuts or something. Well,
it was raining, and I mostly couldn't be bothered.
No, I don't think you should take that win away from yourself. You chose to do what you did because you still respected yourself despite somebody else's opinion of breaking you down. You see, that's a huge bloody big deal.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And it was a huge turnaround.
Yeah. And if you wanted to go and eat sweet shit, you'd have found it, but that wasn't what you were looking for. Because see, ladies, this is the thing I want you to understand. A diet is a diet. It's a prison. A transformation is what's happened with Lucie. Lucie's transformed to the place that I didn't know the answer she was going to give there, obviously, because you can tell I didn't know. But we finished our work together a week ago, didn't we? Which makes you being here even...
Yeah, I think a week Monday, 10 days.
Yeah, which makes you I'm even more grateful that you're here, because you know there's no reason for you to be here. But if you think about it, that if that's where the transformation has taken you to, and you went to that not knowing there was somebody you could ring or do whatever, and you did it by your, oh my God, I'm so proud of you. That's amazing.
I mean, there have been days where I've eaten a massive bar of chocolate. There have been days when I've gone through the big
I've just had a Ferrero Rocher. I'm just saying.
Bags of crisps, you know, the big family share bags. So I shall share that with me, myself, and I. That's 3 people.
Yeah.
Of course, I've had those days. I'm human, and it's summer, and it's lockdown, and we can't go anywhere. So I've had those days where I've just eaten everything I can get my hands on.
But the thing is, at the end of that process, you didn't feel like shooting yourself in the head.
Oh, no, I had no guilt, no shame. I knew. I looked in the cupboard and went, well, I could eat that apple. I don't want to. I want to eat my big bag of Doritos.
But you had eaten the apple already, or you had eaten fruit earlier in the day.
Fruit.
Yeah, you had done all the things you were meant to do as part of what we taught you to do, and therefore you know if you want to eat them. That's my point. If you do all the right shit, if at the end you want to do something like eat the Doritos or the wine, I'm like, go for it, you know? So I want to just say that, Lucie, can you please have a look at Daisy and Susan's questions while I say this? So, ladies, the thing with it, ladies and gentlemen, the thing with it is the 5 pillars. There is the transformation comes from understanding that the system that we have incorporates not just low calorie. It's talking about your diet, talking about your relationships and being people pleasers and learning the skills to manage that. Talking about the fact that you have a mindset shift and how to make that happen. Talking about the rituals and like we did with Lucie, it was like, when you wake up, this is what you do, fit it into your life. How do we fit it in? And then knowing that you kind of have a purpose to your life. It's taking you through that whole process. And we started with the conversation in the beginning. That's where we started. So if you would like to book in a conversation with me and do the same thing that Lucie did, follow the same journey, we'll put up a link. When I say we, it's a long, if you guys have a link, there you go, Antonella. Just book in the call. If it for some reason books you in for an hour and a half, it's only going to be a half-hour call. We'll go through and let me see what I can do to help you. But that's where you need to start. Just book in that call and then we'll go from there. Right, Lucie, what were the questions?
So Daisy has asked me if my goal of wanting to lose weight has been replaced by another goal.
I love that.
My view. Really bizarrely, it hasn't yet. And the reason it hasn't is that as soon as my focus was no longer on my food, and this infinite choice and infinite opportunity has opened up to me. Now that I'm not thinking, oh, how many cents is this and how many calories is that? And if I eat that bag of crisps, I need to do how many miles on the treadmill? I can now do anything I want to do. Absolutely anything. I just haven't decided what I want to do yet.
Well, and you know, you've been in prison for so long emotionally. Don't rush. You'll find out. See, the thing is that with this liberation, you find out so much about yourself that you didn't know, because you were only whether or not you bloody lost weight. That was who defined you and how we defined you.
Yeah. And the other question was, is it because I felt I was in control rather than Slimming World? So about taking control back. Do you know, I think it's the right idea, but it's the wrong word.
Thank you. I was going to say.
Control is totally the wrong word.
It's like giving birth to children. Having home. I love it. Lucie just rocks.
Well, my mind shifted from controlling everything, controlling what I eat, what I drink, when I drink, when I go out, when I don't go out. And it got completely flipped to total freedom. I have no control. Nothing in my diet is weighed, nothing is measured unless I'm baking. And there's alchemy in that. But nothing's weighed, nothing's measured. Everything's done on taste or how it looks. And I fire up the saute pan or the oven and cook.
So let me just go back to that one. Who asked about the control thing? Was it Marissa?
No,
Susan. So the thing when you do control, Susan, and just to kind of expand on what Lucie says, what I want you to know about yourself is that you are a strong, resilient, amazing woman. You really, really are. And that when you reduce yourself to this tiny thing that you can only be, which is a calorie or a weight or a thing, you lose that control to reduce your life to this tiny, shitty thing that you have become all about. that takes control, and that takes a huge amount of effort. But when you do what Lucie's done, where you take away that and you don't have to control every last thing that goes in your mouth, you then start to flow with a level of power. So now if you look at where Lucie is, the adapting to change Lucie must be easier, because if you're going to go out one night, or if you ever go out again, if we ever go out again, but if you want to go and do one thing one day and nothing the other day, you can do that because you're not sitting there in tiny, tiny, tiny steps, measuring your life per bloody calorie, you know?
Yeah. Oh,
it's a massive difference.
Yeah, it's total. When every decision is entirely yours, so it's not, oh, the plan says this, or the diet says this, or my trainer says this. When every single choice is yours, there isn't a right and a wrong choice. There's nothing, you can't get something wrong when there's no right way to do it.
Yes, because if you believe in yourself, and which is what we help you to do, you're believing in your own choice, right? And I like that. That's wonderful. Gosh, I'm so happy. I'm like, just take over the world or something.
Who knew?
I know. I'm just so I can't believe it, Lucie, honestly. And it's just in 6 weeks. This is the thing I can't believe. And I love
6
that.
hours. And like I say, that first week, nothing that, for anybody who does embark on this, and if you've ever felt stuck, if you've ever plateaued, if you've ever just genuinely hated your body because nothing seems to work, then at the very least, please just book a discovery call. But if you do embark on this program, it blew my mind how effortless it all was.
Yeah, but that's also, in a way, you're like, it can't be that easy. There was a moment in the beginning where you were like, really? That's it? And I was like, uh-huh. And you're like, but. And it was like, no, that's pretty much it, you know?
No, it really is that simple. And it just, it blows my mind still how intuitive it all is. It's totally intuitive. There's no, oh, do I or don't I? I'm not sure. No, you do know. You know the answer. What's the answer? And what the answer is for me might not be the answer for anybody else, because
it's personal.
My body has different needs
to
every other body. But I make the choices that are right for not just my physical, but also my emotional. Like, there are just times you need to eat the chocolate bar. There are just times you need the bottle of wine.
And you can do it without feeling shitty about it.
Yeah.
That's the skill set in life. Because when you don't feel shitty about doing it today, you don't have to wake up tomorrow again and then think, oh my God, I feel guilty because I was shitty or terrible last night. Because it's all bloody balanced, isn't it? It's naturally imbalanced.
So that's sort of, oh shit, I had 2 glasses of wine last night. The rest of the week, I can't do anything. Probably gonna have another glass of wine tonight as well to celebrate, you know?
I think you should. Oh my God, that's amazing. We've got, yes, no, Marissa, honestly, this is why I wanted you guys to hear Lucie, because the process that we have, which is really interesting. Daisy, actually, is Daisy still with us? Daisy, are you still with us? There's just a place where we start with a thing called an audit. And the audit kind of literally lays out your life, and it shows you the holes that you have in your existing problem and the problems you have. And the thing is, when we just talk about calories, we don't find out those problems. Then Daisy did her audit today, didn't you, Daisy? Thank you so much for coming on. Yeah, the thing about the audit, which is where we start, the whole process, is it looks at diet, relationships, mindset, habits, and purpose. And it says, what's your biggest hole? And invariably, we have 1 or 2 areas here, which are the things that are undercutting everything we try and do. And everybody's is different. Like Daisy's audit threw up totally different results to Lucie's. It is a completely different process for each person, you know, so you kind of want to just understand how different the whole thing is. But, you know, please, yes, thanks, Antonella. Lucie, ladies, join me in saying thank you so much to Lucie. You're just absolutely wonderful, and I'm so grateful.
Very welcome.
that
Very
you
welcome. It's been great.
Firstly, I'm grateful that you came on and did that, because I had never run that course before, and you were the first person I ever ran it with. I was like, Lucie, I've never run, because I always work one-to-one with people, and I had never worked, you know, in any of, I'd never done it in a really short period of time, and it was just, yeah. It'll be, Marissa, I actually recorded it because, you know, this week I remembered, and I'll put up a replay. And Lucie, I'm so grateful. You're wonderful, my love. Thank you for all the work you did. And look at all the lovely thank yous.
It's fatal. It's been a pleasure to come on and to do this, because I know how lost and blind I felt before I did this program. So I know I can empathize with what a lot of the people in this group are probably feeling. And this hasn't been, although Geeta asked me to come on and speak, I'm not being paid. I haven't been given, you know, a company line or anything like this. This is just, if my life turned around this quickly and this webinar helps just one person, if one person books that call and books onto the program, I'm happy. I'm fulfilled by that.
Well, and you're so brave, sweetie, because you actually said, I'm so bloody nervous. Because, I mean, the email with Luce, come meet Lucie, went out to like tens of thousands of people on our database. And Lucie was like, oh my God. And so she's like, I'm really nervous. And that's exactly what you said in writing. You said, if I can help one person, you know, and so I love you, sweetie. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful. And we will, of course, be seeing you again. Sarah Thomas says, I'm in marketing, you're a natural, you were so good. That's wonderful.
Need to find another job.
Yeah, exactly. I think you should come and work as a coach for us or something, frankly. So ladies, is there, Lucie, thank you, my love. Ladies, is there anything else, ladies and gentlemen, anything else that you want to ask us that I've got an us, because I was enjoying having Lucie there because I didn't have to talk to myself. If there's any other questions you've got, please, what I want to say to you is this, that only you can change the conversation in your head. Only you can make the decision to not live in that horrible restrictive way that you've tried for decades. It has not worked. It will never work. If it hasn't worked yet, it's not going to work. And it is helping us to bring us up and our children up in a shitty way where they follow in our footsteps. And I want you to feel free. I want you to feel powerful. I want you to feel strong. Look at how amazing it is listening to what Lucie feels like, you know. And this is not somebody who's like, I'm a public speaker. Lucie works for the Financial Ombudsman and can stand here and wants to tell you how amazing it is. And I'm so grateful. But all of you, every single one of you can do this. Every single one of you. And I just, whatever you choose to do, please book in a call to speak to me. It's a half-hour call, and we'll work out what your route is. And it isn't always, you know, that come work with me, because it's not always perfect for everybody. And sometimes it is. And if it is, let's find out together. And thank you very much for joining me. And I'm sorry we're a little bit late. And Lucie's just the chat. Lucie said, thank you. Lucie's on nearly cancelled mine. I know, the number of people go, I'm coming on that call. Have a wonderful evening, and thank you so much for being here. And by the way, you don't have to live in England. I know there's a few of you that come in from the US. I don't mind where you live, because I don't need to send you food and give you something in order for this to work for you. So thank you, and I'll post the recording and we'll email you and let you know so that you can have a look, Marissa, as well, or you can just speak to me. Amazing. Thank you, thank you. Take care, everybody.